Hello everyone, and welcome back to Dragalia Foundry. Well, we've had some downtime this past week in Dragalia Lost, with the main news being that Void Agni update and a lot of the Void Battle endeavors, but as you hopefully know, tomorrow things are going to heat up. We have Chapter 8 of the campaign coming out of nowhere. It seemed like it was about time for it, but it wasn't in any of the What's Ahead previews, so you can look forward to that tomorrow, as well as High Mercury, and of course, the topic of this video, Visions of Amity, the new showcase. So there was no preview of a new event, so it seems like for pretty much the first time we are getting a brand new showcase without an accompanying event, and we're going to have new adventurers introduced to the game with no event to back them up. However, as we'll see, the 5-star adventure on this showcase is very familiar and is somebody people were clamoring for a while now, for the past few weeks at least. So we're going to take a look at the English trailer, then we'll look at the Japanese trailer. I'll just run through it because there is a little bit of variance in the footage between the two. And finally, we'll head on over to the game and we'll actually read the description for the featured 5-star adventure and the featured 5-star dragon. One thing I will point out right away is we do know that Wormprint summoning change is happening. However, that starts on April 25th. So just be aware that you will still be able to pull Wormprints in this showcase. Even 5-star Wormprints, although nothing has been given a rate up or is featured, but you will still be able to pull them. So if that is a factor for you, just keep that in mind. Maybe you can wait to the end of this showcase before you make your decision. And of course, April 25th is also when our crossover event with Fire Emblem Heroes starts, so I think a lot of you will probably want to save your Wormite for that day. But here we go with the trailer. So we got a 5-star adventure, a 4-star adventure, and a 5-star dragon to look at today. And of course, our 5-star adventure is going to be Silas. Silas was highly anticipated last time. A lot of you really wanted to summon him, and now he is available. He is a Wind Lance support type, and his first skill, Woodland Spear, deals damage ahead, reduces strength, and inflicts poison. And his second skill, Inspiriting Scent, boosts the user and the team's skill gauge fill rate, and then also applies one random buff to the entire team as well. Yue is a Fire Axe defense unit. She was the unit that we saw, but we didn't know her name, on the Chocolatier's Wormprint, so now she's finally in the game. And our newly added dragon is Pazuzu. So Wind 5-star, and this dragon interacts with poison, so it has Wind strength of 50%, lower than what we see on Zephyr, who has 60%, but then Wind Poison Punisher of 20%. So we'll get into the analysis of that later on. Pretty good skill, I would say. Reduces defense, inflicts poison, and deals damage in a line. That's pretty nice to see. And other than that, we don't get any more from this preview video. So one interesting little detail I'll point out is the wording on the tweet that the North American Twitter account sent out. They actually said this showcase features new adventurers like 5-star Silas and 4-star Yue, and I'm quoting here, as well as new dragons like 5-star Pazuzu. So they said new dragons plural. That makes me think we might actually get a new 4-star dragon here and it just wasn't put into the trailer. Maybe that's a bit of a stretch, but the fact that they said new dragons plural, maybe I'm reading into it too much, but I really would love to see a new 4-star dragon. I think it's about time that we get one. It's possible we'll never get any going forward, but that would instantly increase the appeal of this showcase to me because as things stand, only 3 units on focus? Not the most exciting thing. You know, it's possible they'll pull upon some old units. Maybe we'll get another Wind 5-star that's given a rate up that we'll find out about tomorrow. Maybe they'll throw Maribel on there. Maybe they will throw a 4-star existing Wind Dragon like Rock or Strabog. But as of now, it doesn't seem that enticing to pull on this showcase. As you can see in the Japanese trailer, we get a little bit of a better look at the first skill on Silas and how it actually lunges forward. It seems to cover a good amount of distance. We'll talk more about Silas's kit as we switch over into the game itself, and I'm going to go ahead and do that now, so I'll see you there. Alright, so I've opened up Dragalia Lost, and here we have our Visions of Amity preview. So another thing that we always look out for here in the notice board is it will typically mention if anything on a banner is limited time. And of course, nothing here is mentioned to be limited time, so we assume that everything here will be part of the normal summoning pool going forward. Our first adventurer, Silas, an aroma to soothe the soul for you. I like this little deer. I love it when they just have random animals in the portraits of adventurers. It's kind of funny, but it happens more often than you might think. There are a lot of hidden animals around. A Sylvan aromatics expert tirelessly working to create new scents and applications. He's known Lucas since childhood and both despairs at his immaturities and envies his gift. So, support unit. Strength, decently high, but certainly leans more toward that HP. That is a very high HP stat. So, interestingly about Silas, from what I understand, there were assets of him, there was a model of him, so there was some anticipation that he would be a featured adventurer at some point. So, at first when I saw this, I thought, wow, Cygames really responded to people's feedback in an extremely timely manner because so many people wanted to summon this guy after that event, Hunt for Harmony, but I think probably more likely he was just in the game assets already, he wasn't created yet, and so that's my thinking is this wasn't something that they could adapt to that quickly, but if they actually were able to do that, good on them for being responsive, but I think he was probably planned for a while. So Woodland Spear is that first skill I mentioned. Deals damage to enemies directly ahead, reduces their strength by 10%, and inflicts poison. This really lunges forward and covers a lot of the map, so this could be used in some interesting ways. Maybe you could use it to escape a distant attack, like a red circle that was forming around you. Perhaps you could use it to speed it out of it somehow. There are some mechanics that encourage you to move very quickly. However, you usually want to quickly retreat, like you can use the Blade Force Strike to quickly retreat from High Midgard Sormer and get out of the way of its 8-way Tempest attack. So quickly lunging toward the boss might have fewer uses, but it ultimately depends on the mechanics of that boss itself. Inspiriting Scent increases the entire team's skill gauge fill rate by 20% for 15 seconds and applies one of the following at random. So I kind of stumbled over this earlier in the video. I said it increases the user and the rest of the team, but yeah, it's just the entire team, 20% for 15 seconds. So this is better than what we see on Laranoa, because on Laranoa you get 20% for 10 seconds only, and hers is only nearby allies. And then you also get this secondary effect of increasing strength by 20% for 15 seconds, defense for 15 seconds, or max HP by 15% for the remainder of the quest. One noteworthy thing here is there's no mention of a max HP cap, but I have to presume that probably 3 of these max HP buffs will be all that's allowed. That has been the historical precedent. You can't increase your max HP too much through these buffs. Still though, depending on the SP costs of this is a very, very powerful buff. The randomness could hurt a little bit. One of the things that kind of redeems Sanoa from her random buffs, because she's the other character who's like this, another kind of potions expert alchemist type character. The thing that redeems her though is her buff is in the first slot, the first skill slot, and those skills typically charge a lot faster than the second skills. So we'll have to see how quickly Silas can throw this ability out, or throw this skill out rather. If it takes a while to charge, I think this will be a little bit worse, but that 15-second skill gauge fill rate can help recharge it. So I think Silas has a lot of potential as a support unit. He has a pretty nice kit. This is actually a really promising skill. It just depends how quickly it can come out, and you might need to luck out a few times on your rolls, but just in general, all of these buffs are pretty strong. So I think Silas is pretty well positioned. Good HP co-ability for survival. Last recovery would help with survival a lot. That would pretty much recover Silas to full with last recovery of 4. That's going to heal a lot of Silas's HP at the very least. It's similar to what we see on Julieta. Freeze res though of 100%. probably the biggest drawback for this adventure, unfortunately. Right now, Freeze Res is only really well positioned against the Water Imperial Onslaught, and we already had a Freeze Res Lance that we could use, Eileen, who's available at 4-star, which if you already have her, you probably don't need Silas. So I would imagine you could sneak Silas into High Mercury that's coming out, but it's funny that they keep releasing these 5-star adventures who have the quote-unquote wrong res for the trial that comes out at the same time. So last time we got Dragalia Cleo, and she had stun res when you really wanted burn res for Hybrid Hilda. So that is a little bit unfortunate, but down the road, say we get a Void Poseidon battle. Poseidon might inflict freeze, even though it seems like, being the king of the sea, he would probably inflict bog. Still, we don't know that yet. We don't know how freeze may help in the future. Freeze is a pretty rare resistance to have, so we really only saw that before on Hawk, on Adise, and on Eileen. Those are the only ones who come to mind with 100% res. So this is nice, it will help round out your team. And of course Gala Ronzel more recently, but he has both Bog and Freeze res. HP of 70% equals strength of 13%. Very nice strength buff. That's a pretty large amount, so really powerful kit, really well-designed character, I think. It's just, can you really afford to not run Bog res? That is kind of the question as far as High Dragon trials. Outside of that context, I can see Silas being very good though. Then the featured dragon is Pazuzu. Great winds, poisonous mist, come, for I am the avatar of disasters. And there is apparently some mythological basis for Pazuzu, so if you Google Pazuzu, look on Wikipedia, you can read about it. I like that Dragalia continues to draw from different traditions. We saw with Simurgh. Simurgh is a Persian mythological being, so it's cool that we get some different mythological beings from around the world, but put into this Dragalia context with the Dragalia artwork and contextualized in the world of Alberia. So a dragon who births disaster from his wings. While he rarely involves himself with humans, he respects any who meet and overcome the destruction and disease his storms carry. So I have to say, I think he looks pretty cool. Probably most similar to Gilgamesh in my opinion, kind of humanoid dragon, but with a, I hate to say it, but with like a Digimon type quality. He doesn't look directly like a Digimon in the same way that I thought Gilgamesh did, but he still has that anthropomorphic kind of like half human, half beast look to him. Catastrophic Winds deals wind damage to enemies in a line, reduces their defense by 5%, and inflicts poison. Everything I would want in a dragon skill. We'll have to see what the actual amount of damage is, but a defense debuff and inflicting poison, that is already pretty nice in addition to dealing damage. One of the things that makes Cerberus so strong as a dragon is her ability to debuff enemy defense. So I think this is the first dragon at 5-star that we've seen, other than her, that can debuff defense. Now, I can't think of anyone else off the top of my head, certainly no one from the gacha pool that comes to mind. We do have a lot of dragons now, so let me know if you can think of anyone else, but I think that's going to be a pretty powerful ability, and, well, I guess I should say skill, and then the abilities are Wind Strength of 50% and Wind Poison Punisher of 20%. So the way I think about this is, there are a lot of adventurers who can inflict poison. In the Wind pool, we have Eleonora, we have Luis, we have Musashi, we have Adise. There are several adventurers who inflict poison. And I like that there's some poison interaction now because really, unlike with stun, unlike with sleep, unlike with paralysis, we hadn't really gotten any interaction for this mechanic. We even had Burning Punisher before on a Wyrmprint from Valentine's Day. So this is really our first poison interaction that we've gotten. Poison lasts 15 seconds, so this Punisher effect will only have a short duration. But if you could poison someone for 3 times in a match, which is what you could do realistically against Mercury, because Mercury has some poison resist built in, and she'll build up poison resist over time. And I believe, my understanding is, the dragon skill doesn't count against that or count toward that cap. So that could be a 4th instance of poison. So you could get a total of 1 minute of poison against a dragon like Mercury, and hopefully high Mercury as well. 1 minute out of a match that's 5 minutes, it's about 20%. So if you want to average this out over the life of a match, you're looking at basically 4% throughout the match. But one thing that makes it a little better than it looks is Punisher and Strength are not additive, they're multiplicative. So having a 4% throughout the whole match multiplied by your amount of strength, it's a little better than if it were to be added. So in that sense, because of the effects, the defense debuff, the whole package, I can actually see this being somewhat comparable to Zephyr, but Zephyr with that 60% raw strength boost, probably going to be more universally useful. Long going to be less universally useful than this dragon in my view, because Long does need some setup. It needs a pretty high critical rate to be able to be used to its fullest. So I kind of see this as being in between them, and for any of those adventures that do dabble in poison, I think this could be good. And of course, I didn't even mention Silas would be able to use this pretty well as well. I think Silas has a very cool and apt support kit, buffs, debuffs. He has it all kind of going on, and this dragon would help enhance that for sure. I would say Zephyr's still probably better if you have Zephyr, even if you have Max Unbound Rock. This is more of a luxury than a necessity, and one other concern I have with this dragon is that since it doesn't boost HP or defense or elemental resistance in any way, it's going to be potentially hard to use on a ranged adventure if you're trying to take them into a high dragon trial. So for Eleonora and Luis especially, this might not give them the stats they actually need to survive the opening blast. We're going to have to find out tomorrow. Of course, we have Lowen in that fight with skill prep, being able to cast some defense buffs and HP buffs at the beginning of the fight should help. So we just don't know how high that cutoff is though, and whether that cutoff incorporates Lowen's skill being cast immediately or not. That is kind of a question mark, but I could see this dragon being kind of good. I'll have to wait and see what the rest of the showcase holds, if there's any surprises in store for us at 4-star, what other 5-star we have. Presumably there will be one more 5-star adventure, maybe even another 5-star wind dragon. And it looks like Visions of Amity won't have an event like I said at the beginning of the video. Let me know what you think of it in the comments below. I'd love to hear what you have to say. Otherwise, everyone, tomorrow will be a busy day for Dragalia Lost. I hope you enjoy the new story chapter. Hope that you enjoy High Mercury if you're trying that out. If you'd like to find people to play with, you can head on over to the Discord. Recently renamed, got an update, so the Discord for this channel is Dragalia Family. I think it reflects what I want that place to be, and we have a nice amount of people running High Mercury to start off and just helping each other out with the game. So be sure to check it out if you haven't and you're interested. Otherwise, everyone, thank you so much for watching. Take care, and I'll see you next time.